Have you ever noticed how the older you get, the simpler your needs become? Not in what you require to survive, but in what your soul truly craves. Perhaps you've discovered that peace no longer lives in being right, in being understood, or in having all the answers. Maybe you've begun to sense that the deepest joy comes not from grand gestures, but from the smallest, most overlooked moments: a bird's song at dawn, the warmth of sunlight through a window, the taste of morning tea. If you watched our first journey through 8 Buddhist lessons, you know that aging isn't about decline, it's about distillation. It's about letting fall away everything that was never truly you, so that what remains is pure, clear, authentic. The Buddha taught that liberation comes not from adding more to your life, but from releasing what weighs you down. And in these elder years, there is perhaps no greater gift than the wisdom to recognize what still binds you and the courage to let it go. This is not a motivational speech. You don't need one. This is something quieter, something that speaks directly to the part of you that has grown tired of pretending, tired of performing, tired of carrying what was never yours to carry. In the next hour, we'll walk together through 8 more Buddhist lessons, each one a doorway to deeper peace. These teachings are not separate from the first 8. They are the continuation, the deepening, the unfolding. As we explore them, ask yourself not what you should do, but what you're finally ready to release. Because freedom, dear friend, is not found in acquisition. It's found in the gentle art of letting go. Lesson 1. Let go of needing to be right. There comes a moment in nearly every conversation, doesn't there? That moment when you feel the familiar pull, the urge to correct, to clarify, to make sure the other person understands, that you know, that you remember, that your version of events is the accurate one. It's a small thing perhaps, but notice how much energy it consumes. Notice the tightness that arrives in your chest, the quickening of your pulse, the rehearsal of your rebuttal, even while the other person is still speaking. The Buddha spoke often about ego, what he called the illusion of a permanent, separate self. This ego is not evil. It is simply confused. It believes that being right equals being safe, that winning an argument equals being worthy, that correcting others equals maintaining dignity. But after 60, 70, 80 years of defending your positions, hasn't there been a growing weariness, a quiet voice asking, "What am I actually protecting?" There's a teaching story from the Zen tradition about 2 monks walking through the forest after heavy rain. They come upon a beautiful young woman in an expensive silk kimono, unable to cross a large muddy puddle without ruining her garment. Without hesitation, the older monk lifts her in his arms, carries her across, and sets her down gently on the other side. The 2 monks continue walking in silence. An hour passes. 2 hours. Finally, the younger monk, clearly agitated, says, "Brother, how could you touch that woman? You know our monastic code forbids physical contact with women." The older monk turns to him calmly and replies, "I set her down 2 hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This is what needing to be right does. It keeps you carrying weight long after the moment has passed. The conversation ended, but you're still rehearsing your better comeback. The disagreement resolved, but you're still collecting evidence for why you were correct. Someone remembered a story differently than you, and weeks later, you're still cataloging proof of your superior memory. Buddhist wisdom asks, what if you could simply set it down? What if, when someone tells a story you know happened differently, you could simply listen? Not because they're right and you're wrong, but because your peace is more valuable than your accuracy. Not because you've become passive or weak, but because you finally understood that the need to be right is just ego wearing the mask of intelligence. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology in 2019 found that older adults who scored lower on need for cognitive closure, the desire for definite answers and aversion to ambiguity, reported significantly higher life satisfaction and lower anxiety. In other words, the less you need to be right, the more peaceful you become. Buddhism has taught this for 25 centuries. Science is simply catching up, but let's be honest, this is hard. Especially if you've spent a lifetime being the one who knew, who remembered, who kept the facts straight. Especially if your value came from being right. There's grief in releasing this, a kind of small death. The Buddha would say, yes, let it die. That wasn't you anyway. That was just ego, terrified of being forgotten, irrelevant, wrong. Here's a practice. The next time you feel the urge to correct someone, pause. Take one full breath. Ask yourself, will correcting this person bring me peace? Will it deepen our connection? Or will it simply feed the part of me that needs to feel superior? If the answer is the latter, practice sacred silence. Let them have their version. Let the conversation flow. Notice what happens in your body when you resist the urge to be right. Notice the space that opens. This is where peace lives, in the freedom from needing to prove anything at all. Lesson 2. Stop explaining yourself. How much of your life energy has been spent explaining? Explaining your choices to family members who don't understand. Explaining your feelings to friends who weren't asking. Explaining why you said yes, why you said no, why you left early, why you arrived late, why you're tired, why you need space, why you've changed your mind. As if your existence requires a footnote. As if your decisions need defending before the tribunal of other people's opinions. The Buddha taught a principle called right speech, words that are truthful, necessary, and kind. Notice what's absent from that list. Justification. Nowhere in the Buddhist teachings does it say, your words must be accompanied by a full explanation of your motivations, your reasoning, your internal process. You are not required to present evidence for the court of public opinion. You are not obligated to make everyone understand. There's a beautiful teaching from Thich Nhat Hanh, the late Vietnamese Zen master. He once said, the highest form of communication is silence. Not the silence of withholding or punishing, but the silence of completion. The silence that comes when you've said what's true and feel no compulsion to elaborate, justify, or convince. This is energetic sovereignty, the reclaiming of your life force from the exhausting task of making yourself acceptable to others. After 60, this becomes especially poignant. Perhaps your children question your decisions about where you live, how you spend your money, how you pass your time. Perhaps friends don't understand why you've become more selective about gatherings, why you prefer quiet evenings at home, why you've stepped back from commitments that once defined you. The old pattern is to explain, well, you see, my energy isn't what it was, and I find that large groups are overwhelming now. And besides, I've been thinking about simplifying my life, and notice the exhaustion in that. Notice the implicit apology, as if your needs require a dissertation, as if your preferences need to be backed by medical evidence before they're valid. Buddhist wisdom offers a different path. I'm not available for that. I've decided to spend my time differently. That doesn't work for me, full stop. No explanation, no defense, just the calm assertion of your reality. This isn't rudeness, it's dignity. It's the recognition that your life belongs to you, not to the collective imagination of everyone who thinks they know better. A 2021 study from Stanford University's Center on Longevity found that older adults who practiced what researchers called selective social optimization, being more intentional about where and with whom they spent time, without extensive justification, reported better mental health outcomes and stronger relationship satisfaction with the people they did choose to engage with. Quality over quantity, authenticity over performance. But here's where it gets tender. Many of us, especially women, were taught that our very existence was conditional upon our agreeableness. That to be loved meant to be understood, and to be understood meant to explain ourselves until the other person nodded in approval. The thought of simply saying no without an essay attached feels almost dangerous, as if we'll be cast out, abandoned, deemed difficult. The Buddha would gently remind you, those who truly love you don't require your justification. Those who respect you trust that your choices come from your own deep knowing, and those who demand endless explanation, they're not seeking to understand you, they're seeking to control you. Here's a radical practice. For 1 week, try removing all explanations from your communications. When someone asks why you're not attending an event, I won't be there. When someone questions your decision, I've given it careful thought. When someone pushes for more detail, I appreciate your concern. Nothing more. Notice how terrifying this feels at first. Notice how much lighter you become afterward. This is the beginning of energetic sovereignty, the recognition that you are the authority on your own life. Lesson 3. Embrace not knowing. In a world obsessed with certainty, there is perhaps no greater rebellion than to sit comfortably with mystery. We live in an age where every question supposedly has an answer, where uncertainty is treated as a problem to be solved, where I don't know sounds like failure rather than wisdom. But Buddhism offers a radically different perspective. Not knowing is not ignorance. It is the doorway to genuine understanding. The Buddha himself refused to answer certain questions. Students would come to him asking about the origin of the universe, the exact mechanics of rebirth, the precise nature of enlightenment. Instead of providing neat answers, he would often remain silent. This wasn't because he didn't know. It was because he understood that some truths cannot be captured in concepts. Some mysteries are meant to be lived rather than solved. And the grasping for certainty often prevents us from experiencing reality as it actually is. There's a famous Buddhist teaching called beginner's mind approaching life with openness, curiosity, and the absence of preconceptions. The Zen master Shunryu Suzuki wrote, "In the beginner's mind there are many possibilities, but in the expert's mind there are few." After 60, 70, 80 years of accumulating knowledge, opinions, and certainties, beginner's mind becomes both harder and more essential. Harder because we've built entire identities on what we know. More essential because rigidity of mind is one of the greatest sources of suffering in old age. Consider the questions that haunt so many elders. Why did my marriage end? Why did my child choose that path? Why did my health decline this way? Why did I make that choice 40 years ago that changed everything? The mind wants answers. It demands explanation. It replays scenarios, searching for the key that will unlock understanding and finally bring peace. But what if peace doesn't come from finding the answer? What if it comes from releasing the demand that there must be one? What if the deepest wisdom of old age is the capacity to hold your life with gentle uncertainty, to say, "I don't fully understand," and that's okay? Recent research in gerontology has explored what psychologists call epistemic humility, the recognition of the limits of one's knowledge. A 2022 study published in the Journals of Gerontology found that older adults who scored higher on measures of epistemic humility showed greater psychological flexibility, lower existential anxiety, and better adaptation to age-related changes. In other words, those who could embrace not knowing navigated aging with more grace. This isn't about becoming intellectually lazy or abandoning the pursuit of understanding. It's about distinguishing between the questions that can be answered and the mysteries that can only be held. It's about recognizing that some of life's most important truths, why we're here, what happens after death, the meaning of suffering, are not problems waiting for solutions, but koans inviting us into deeper presence. The Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron speaks of the wisdom of no escape. She teaches that our suffering often comes not from our circumstances, but from our refusal to accept not having all the answers. We want to know if we made the right choice. We want to understand why things unfolded as they did. We want certainty that it all meant something. But what if we could rest in not knowing? What if we could hold our questions like we would hold a smooth stone, not to solve it, but simply to feel its weight, its coolness, its presence? Here's a contemplative practice. Think of one question about your life that you've been trying to answer for years. Write it down. Then place your hand over your heart and say aloud, "I may never know the answer, and I can live with that." Notice what arises. Grief, relief, resistance, all of these are doorways. The Buddha taught that liberation begins when we stop demanding that reality conform to our need for understanding. Not knowing becomes not a gap to fill, but a space to rest in, vast, open, free. Lesson 4. Release the need for closure. We are taught, aren't we, that healthy endings require closure, that relationships should be tied with neat bows, that conflicts should be resolved with mutual understanding, that every chapter should conclude with clarity and resolution. But Buddhism teaches something that challenges this entirely. Some things are meant to remain unfinished. Some doors will never fully close, and there is profound peace available when you stop demanding that they do. The Buddha spoke of impermanence, anicca, as one of the 3 marks of existence. Everything is always in flux, always incomplete, always in the process of becoming and unbecoming. To expect closure is to expect permanence, to expect a final, solid answer in a reality where nothing is final and nothing is solid. This doesn't mean we shouldn't seek understanding or attempt reconciliation. It means that peace cannot be conditional upon receiving them. Think about the relationships that ended without explanation. The friend who slowly drifted away, never saying why. The family member who cut contact, leaving you with questions that echo through the years. The loved one who died before you could say what needed saying. The apology you never received. The conversation that never happened. You can spend the rest of your life circling these absences, demanding they give you what they cannot. Or you can practice what Buddhism calls radical acceptance. The deep, whole-body acknowledgement that this is how it is. There's a profound teaching in Tibetan Buddhism about leaving things incomplete. Tibetan sand mandalas, those intricate, beautiful works of art created grain by grain over days or weeks, are ritually destroyed as soon as they're completed. Monks spend countless hours in meticulous creation, only to sweep the sand into a river, letting it flow away. This is the teaching. Nothing is meant to last. Nothing is meant to be perfectly finished. Beauty exists in the making and the unmaking, and our suffering comes from trying to hold on to the finished thing. After 60, how many unfinished chapters do you carry? How many relationships without closure? How many questions without answers? How much energy do you still devote to replaying conversations that never happened, imagining the explanations that would finally make sense of the hurt, the confusion, the mystery of why things ended as they did? Research in psychology has extensively studied what's called ambiguous loss, grief without resolution. Dr. Pauline Boss, a family therapist and researcher, has found that those who can embrace ambiguity without demanding clarity recover more effectively from loss. She writes, "The way out is through acceptance of the ambiguity, not through achieving certainty." Buddhism would recognize this immediately. The way out is through surrender, not through resolution. But this is tender territory. Because the need for closure often masks deeper needs to be valued, to be understood, to know that we mattered. When someone leaves without explanation, it can feel like an erasure of significance. When a conflict remains unresolved, it can feel like the relationship itself was invalidated. The ego wants the final word, the settling of accounts, the acknowledgement that we were right, or hurt, or justified. Buddhist compassion holds all of this gently. It doesn't say your pain is invalid. It says you can honor your hurt and still release the demand for resolution. You can grieve what was lost without needing to understand exactly why it was lost. You can hold the tenderness of unfinished business without letting it hold you hostage. Here's a practice of completion without closure. Think of one relationship or situation where you've been waiting for closure. Light a candle. Speak aloud what you wish could have been said, what you wish you could have heard. Then, blow out the candle and say, "I release you. I release my need to understand. I honor what was, and I let it be incomplete." This isn't giving up. It's coming home to the present moment, which is the only moment where peace actually lives. The past cannot give you what you're seeking, but presence can. Always. Lesson 5. Practice sacred silence. Words are powerful. The Buddha included right speech as part of the Eightfold Path, recognizing that our words create worlds, they build bridges or burn them. They heal wounds or deepen them. They illuminate truth or obscure it. But there is something even more powerful than right speech, something that often goes unmentioned in our word-saturated culture: right silence. The wisdom of knowing when not to speak. As we age, many of us notice a strange phenomenon. We have more to say and less need to say it. We've accumulated decades of experience, insight, and hard-won wisdom. We see patterns the young cannot yet perceive. We recognize mistakes before they're made. And yet, there's a growing recognition that speaking up isn't always wisdom. Sometimes wisdom is closing your mouth and allowing others to discover what you already know. There's a teaching in Chan Buddhism, the Chinese precursor to Zen, about the sound of one hand clapping. It's meant to break the logical mind, to point to a reality beyond concepts. But it also teaches something profound about silence. Silence is not absence. It's a presence of a different kind. It's not empty. It's full of attention, of spaciousness, of allowing. Think about the conversations you've had in recent years where you knew exactly what to say, where the advice was clear, where your experience could have saved someone's struggle and yet you chose silence. Not because you didn't care, but because you understood that some lessons cannot be taught. They must be lived. The Buddha himself said, "If anything is worth doing, do it with all your heart." Notice what's conspicuously absent, convincing others to do it with all their hearts. Sacred silence is different from the silence of resentment, the silence of passive aggression, the silence of disconnection. It's not the cold shoulder or the withholding of care. It's the silence that comes from deep respect for the other person's journey, for the timing of wisdom, for the organic unfolding of understanding. It's the silence that trusts that people have their own inner guidance, that struggle is often the vehicle for growth, that your intervention might actually rob someone of the very lesson they came here to learn. A 2020 study from the University of California, Berkeley, explored what researchers called strategic silence in family relationships. They found that older adults who practiced selective silence, refraining from unsolicited advice, criticism, or correction, maintained significantly better relationships with adult children and experienced less family conflict. The temptation to correct, to guide, to share hard-won wisdom is understandable, but the wisdom to resist that temptation is what preserves connection. This is challenging, particularly for those who spent their younger years in roles of authority, guidance, or care. If you were the parent, the teacher, the manager, the advisor, your entire identity may have been built on speaking up, sharing knowledge, directing outcomes. To step back into silence can feel like surrendering your value, your relevance, your purpose. Who are you, if not the voice of experience? The Buddha would answer, "You are the presence that holds space for others to find their own voice. You are the wisdom that knows when to speak and when to listen. You are the love that trusts the journey, even when it includes detours and dead ends. Your silence is not absence, it's the most profound gift you can offer, the gift of allowing others to be fully themselves." Here's a practice. For one full day, practice what Buddhist monks call noble silence. Speak only when directly addressed, and even then, with the fewest words necessary. If someone seeks advice, try responding with a question instead of an answer. What do you think you should do? If someone shares a problem, try offering presence instead of solutions. That sounds difficult. I'm here if you need me. Notice how much energy you conserve. Notice how much more you actually hear. Notice how silence itself becomes a teacher, revealing depths that words often obscure. This is the beginning of sacred silence, not the absence of voice, but the presence of something deeper. Lesson 6. Honor your intuition. There is a kind of knowing that doesn't come from the thinking mind. It arrives as a sensation in the body, a tightening in the chest, a warmth in the heart, a sinking in the gut, a lifting in the spirit. You can't explain it. You can't point to evidence. You just know. The Buddha called this direct knowing prajna, in Sanskrit wisdom, that bypasses conceptual thought and arrives whole, immediate, undeniable. After 60, 70, 80 years in a body, you have accumulated an extraordinary database of lived experience. Your nervous system has learned to recognize patterns, to sense danger, to detect truth, to feel resonance or dissonance with remarkable precision. This is not mysticism. This is neurobiology. Your body knows things your conscious mind hasn't yet articulated. The question is, do you trust it? Western culture has taught us to privilege the rational mind above all else. We want data, evidence, logical arguments. Intuition gets dismissed as emotional, unreliable, feminine, in other words, not to be trusted. But Buddhism recognizes intuition as one of the highest forms of wisdom. It's not about abandoning reason. It's about recognizing that reason has limits, that logic cannot access certain truths, that the body holds wisdom the mind cannot comprehend. Think about the times you've ignored your intuition. The relationship that felt wrong from the beginning, but you couldn't articulate why, so you stayed. The decision that looked good on paper but felt hollow in your gut, so you proceeded anyway. The person who said all the right things but something in you whispered, "Be careful," and you dismissed it as paranoia. How often was your intuition correct? How often did you pay a price for ignoring it? A fascinating 2018 study published in the journal Psychological Science found that older adults demonstrated superior affective forecasting, the ability to predict emotional outcomes of decisions compared to younger adults. Researchers concluded that decades of experience had fine-tuned older adults' intuitive sense of what would bring satisfaction or regret. In other words, your gut feelings at 70 are statistically more reliable than they were at 30. You've earned this wisdom. The question is whether you'll honor it. But here's where it gets complex. Sometimes intuition gets confused with fear. Sometimes what feels like inner guidance is actually old trauma speaking. How do you distinguish between the voice of wisdom and the voice of anxiety? Buddhism offers a test. Intuition feels calm, even when it's delivering uncomfortable information. It feels quiet, clear, centered. Fear, by contrast, feels agitated, spinning, urgent. Intuition says, "This isn't right for you." Fear says, "Everything is dangerous." Intuition guides, fear grips. There's also the challenge of intuition that contradicts what others expect. Your grown children think you should move to assisted living. Your doctor recommends a procedure. Your financial advisor suggests an investment. All of these people have expertise, training, rational arguments. But something in you says no, not loudly, not with evidence, just a quiet, unshakable knowing. Do you trust it? The Buddhist teacher Jack Cornfield tells of a student who came to him distressed about a decision. She had created elaborate lists of pros and cons, consulted everyone she trusted, analyzed every angle. Finally, Jack asked her, "What does your body say?" She paused, placed her hand on her heart, and immediately began to cry. "It says no," she whispered. "It's been saying no the whole time. I just wasn't listening." This is what decades of mindfulness practice cultivates, the ability to drop below the chattering mind and listen to the deeper wisdom of embodied knowing, not impulsively, not reactively, but with the kind of attention that recognizes truth when it arises, even when it's inconvenient. Here's a practice. The next time you're facing a decision, before consulting anyone else, sit quietly, place both hands on your belly, breathe deeply. Then imagine yourself saying yes to the choice in front of you. Notice what your body does. Does it relax, contract, expand, feel heavy or light? Then imagine yourself saying no. Notice again. Your body will tell you. It always does. The practice is learning its language, trusting its messages, honoring its wisdom, even when the mind protests. This is what the Buddha meant by coming home to yourself, the recognition that you've carried guidance within you all along. Lesson 7. Simplify everything. There's a beautiful paradox in aging. As the body becomes frailer, the spirit has the opportunity to become freer. As physical strength diminishes, inner strength can deepen. And one of the most powerful expressions of this inner strength is the capacity to simplify, to shed not just physical possessions but mental clutter, emotional baggage, relational complexity, to strip away everything that isn't essential so that what remains is just life. Pure, present, unadorned. The Buddha lived this teaching. He was born a prince, surrounded by luxury, protected by wealth. But he walked away from it all, the palace, the possessions, the security, in search of truth. He didn't find truth in accumulation. He found it in relinquishment. He taught his followers to own only the essentials: 3 robes, a begging bowl, a water filter, a razor. Not as punishment, but as liberation. Every possession you don't own is one less thing that can own you. After 60, many people begin a natural process of simplification, downsizing from a large home to a smaller one, giving away belongings accumulated over decades, releasing commitments that once felt important but now feel like obligations. This isn't loss. This is homecoming, coming home to what truly matters. But simplification goes deeper than decluttering closets. It's also about simplifying your mental landscape. How many worries are you carrying about things that may never happen? How many regrets about things that cannot be changed? How many rehearsals of conversations that will never occur? The mind, left to itself, becomes a hoarder of thoughts, concerns, plans, and fears. Buddhist practice asks, what if you could let most of that go? There's a teaching in Zen Buddhism called One Thing. Master Dogen wrote, "To study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. When you forget the self, its endless needs, its constant commentary, its ceaseless demands, you can be fully present to just one thing. This cup of tea, this breath, this moment of sun on your face. This is simplicity, not doing less, but being more fully here for what you are doing." Research in environmental psychology has extensively documented what's called cognitive load theory, the recognition that our minds have finite capacity for attention and decision-making. A 2017 study published in the Journal of Consumer Research found that older adults who reduced physical clutter in their living spaces reported significant improvements in mental clarity, decision-making ability, and overall well-being. The external environment directly impacts the internal one. Simplify your surroundings, and you simplify your mind. But there's another form of simplification that's even more profound: simplifying your relationships. Not by abandoning people, but by bringing authenticity to every interaction. How much energy do you spend maintaining relationships that no longer nourish you? How many social obligations do you fulfill out of guilt rather than genuine desire? How many conversations do you have that leave you feeling drained rather than renewed? The Buddha taught that life is short and precious. He said, "The trouble is, you think you have time. You don't. None of us do." And at 60, 70, 80, the preciousness of time becomes visceral. Every hour spent in obligation is an hour not spent in genuine connection. Every interaction performed out of duty is an interaction that robs you of the energy for something real. Simplification is not about becoming cold or isolated. It's about becoming clear. It's about recognizing that you can love people deeply and still choose not to see them regularly. It's about understanding that your peace is not selfish. It's the foundation from which genuine generosity flows. You cannot give from an empty well. You cannot offer authentic presence if you're exhausted from maintaining facades. Here's a radical practice. For 1 month, say no to anything that doesn't bring you joy, peace, or deep meaning. No explanation, no apology. Just no, thank you. Watch what falls away. Some relationships will end, and that's information. Some will deepen, and that's blessing. Most importantly, watch how much space opens up space for silence, for rest, for the things that actually matter. The Buddha taught that when you let go of what doesn't serve you, you make room for what does. Simplification isn't loss, it's liberation. It's the joy of discovering that you need far less than you thought to be profoundly, completely happy. Lesson 8. Celebrate small joys. We spend so much of life chasing big moments, the milestone birthdays, the achievements, the vacations, the celebrations. We wait for permission to be happy, telling ourselves that joy will come when we reach the destination, when circumstances align, when something significant happens. But the Buddha taught something that changes everything. Joy is not waiting at the end of a long road. It's available in each ordinary moment, if only we're present enough to notice it. There's a teaching in Theravada Buddhism called mudita sympathetic joy, the capacity to delight in small pleasures. Not just your own pleasures, but the joy of witnessing joy itself, the child laughing on the street, the couple holding hands on the bench, the flower pushing through concrete, the bird building its nest. When you cultivate mudita, the entire world becomes a source of delight. You're no longer dependent on your own circumstances to feel happy. You become permeable to joy. After 60, this capacity becomes both easier and more essential. Easier because you're no longer driven by the same ambitions, the same need to achieve and acquire. The big pursuits have settled, the mountain climbed or not climbed, the career made or not made. What remains is this moment, this breath, this cup of coffee, this conversation, this sunset. The question is, can you let it be enough? There's a famous story of the Buddha's disciple, Mahakasyapa. One day, the Buddha stood before his students holding a single flower. He said nothing. He simply held the flower and smiled. All the students were confused, searching for the deep meaning, the hidden teaching. But Mahakasyapa understood. He smiled back. The Buddha said, "I have transmitted to you the essence of the teaching." What was the teaching? Just this, the flower, the moment. Nothing more. This is what old age offers, if you're willing to receive it. The transmission of the simple, the recognition that you've been searching for, what was always right here, the extraordinary hidden in the ordinary, the sacred disguised as mundane, the profound wearing the face of the everyday. A 2019 longitudinal study from Harvard Medical School tracked life satisfaction across the lifespan. Researchers found that one of the strongest predictors of happiness in older adults wasn't health, wealth, or achievement. It was what they called present moment awareness of positive stimuli, the capacity to notice and savor small pleasures. Those who could appreciate a good meal, a kind word, a comfortable chair, a moment of laughter reported significantly higher well-being than those focused on past accomplishments or future goals. But our culture teaches us the opposite. It teaches us that small joys are not enough, that we should always want more, reach higher, achieve bigger. We're taught that contentment with simple things is settling, is giving up, is a kind of defeat. The advertising industry spends billions convincing you that happiness lives in the thing you don't yet have. Buddhism offers the revolutionary counter-teaching. Happiness lives in appreciating what's already here. This doesn't mean you stop growing or striving. It means you stop deferring your joy until some future condition is met. It means you practice what Thich Nhat Hanh called washing dishes, to wash dishes being fully present to whatever you're doing, not as a means to an end, but as an end in itself. When you drink tea, just drink tea. When you walk, just walk. When you sit in sunlight, let yourself be warmed. This is the practice of small joys, the recognition that every moment contains the possibility of delight, if you're present enough to receive it. Here's a practice that transforms lives. Keep a small joys journal. Each evening, before sleep, write down 3 small things that brought you pleasure that day. Not big things, small things, the specific things, the taste of the first sip of morning tea, the sound of rain on the window, the way light fell across the kitchen floor, the smile from a stranger, the softness of your favorite sweater, the memory of a friend's laughter. Do this for 30 days. Watch what happens. You're not searching for joy. You're training your attention to recognize joy that was always present. The Buddha called this right concentration, the ability to direct your mind toward what nurtures rather than what depletes. And there is perhaps no greater gift you can give yourself in old age than the capacity to be genuinely delighted by the smallest, most ordinary blessings of being alive. Closing reflection. So here we are, at the end of another journey through Buddhist wisdom. 8 more lessons, 8 more invitations to let go, to simplify, to return to what's real. If you've walked this path with me, you've encountered teachings that might feel challenging, uncomfortable, even frightening. Letting go of being right, releasing the need for closure, embracing the mystery of not knowing. These are not easy practices. They ask you to surrender control, to release certainty, to trust something deeper than your own understanding. But here's what I hope you've heard beneath all these words. You are not broken. You are not diminishing. You are not becoming less. You are, in fact, being invited into the deepest freedom of your life. The Buddha taught that liberation is available to everyone, at any age, in any circumstance. It's not reserved for monks or mystics. It's your birthright. And these elder years, these precious, irreplaceable years, are perhaps the richest opportunity you'll ever have to claim that freedom. Because you've lived long enough to see through the lies. You know that being right doesn't bring peace. You've learned that explanations don't guarantee understanding. You've discovered that some questions have no answers, some stories have no endings, and some wounds heal not through closure but through acceptance. You've earned this wisdom through decades of experience, through heartbreak and joy, through mistakes and grace. Now is the time to trust it. The Buddha's final words to his students were, "Work out your own liberation with diligence, not adopt my liberation, not follow my exact path, but work out your own." These 8 lessons, and the 8 before them, are not commandments, they're invitations. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Trust your own inner knowing about what you're ready to release and what you still need to hold. But I will say this, the peace you're seeking doesn't live in the future. It's not waiting for you after you've finally figured everything out, resolved every relationship, understood every mystery. Peace lives here, in this moment, in the willingness to be exactly who you are, exactly where you are, without needing it to be different. The Buddha called this tathata, suchness, the profound acceptance of what is. So today, right now, what if you tried just one of these practices? What if you let someone be wrong without correcting them? What if you said no without explaining why? What if you paused before giving advice and chose sacred silence instead? What if you placed your hand on your heart and listened to what your body already knows? What if you looked around and found 3 small joys that have been waiting for your attention? You don't have to transform everything at once. The Buddha taught that liberation comes not through giant leaps, but through small, consistent steps in the direction of truth. One moment of letting go, one choice for simplicity, one breath of presence. These accumulate, they compound, they change everything. Thank you for walking this path with me. Thank you for having the courage to examine your life, to question old patterns, to reach toward freedom. If these teachings served you, let them guide your days. Share them with others who might need to hear them. But most of all, live them. Because Buddhist wisdom is not meant to be understood, it's meant to be embodied. May you walk lightly through these precious days. May you release what weighs you down. May you discover that the peace you've been seeking has been within you all along, waiting quietly for you to finally come home.